All right, so the upside to playing this song this year, which is an annual tradition on the show, is it could be about the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not about the Maple Leafs, right?
It is about the Jays. They stink.
They're not that good either.
No, morphing into watching them a little bit, they are awful.
They are not a lot of fun right now either.
This might be an Alec Manoah's.
That's probably what Manoah is
phone
listening to while he's throwing pizzas over the middle on a 3-2 count.
It looked good for the first, inning.
Yeah, he started strong, a lot of strikeouts, and then he walked a bunch of guys, and he gave up a bunch of hits, and he got rocked. And yet he's a part of the program moving forward. The Alec Manoah era has returned. So, yeah, that could be for the Leafs. It could be for the Blue Jays. It could be for the Raptors.
It's
right?
for the Leafs. It's for the Leafs.
It's for the Leafs. Okay. That's what we're
is.
establishing. That is for the Maple Leafs. I agree with you.
Played
There
that
we go
a lot,
again.
man. At this time of year, we've played that a lot.
I know. Ray's coming up in an hour. Ray sent me a text yesterday.
Ray was there.
He was there watching it. Pasternak closed the lights, turned the lights out. Ray said, we're doing it again. I said, I'll chat with you 5:05 on Monday. We're doing it again.
So that was an unbelievable set play by Boston.
Yes,
first
it was.
And foremost.
Lindholm, Pasternak, brilliant.
But there was 3 layers of mistakes, and from a tightly contested game to that.
That's the first egregious breakdown all night.
Right. And it's a
in overtime.
It's a 3-pronged attack. Right?
It was a 3-pronged attack. Marner not picking him up. Riley not picking him up, and then Samsonov being indecisive.
No, Samsonov looked like a goalie in Florida when the Rats were coming on the ice and they crawled underneath the net.
He was deep on
I don't know what there's just so many levels to that. And the frustrating thing about it is it seemed like it took Austin Matthews to come out of the lineup where they had to totally change their value system on how to win, and everything was going to be different. And they did it game 5, they did it game 6, and they did it for the most part in game 7. But at the end of the day, it's still the same result. And they just have a complete meltdown like that in overtime, and Pasternak wins it. So you can talk about how they changed the way they played and how they valued boxing out and valued physicality and played for keeps. And guys stepped up and had moments. Austin Matthews in game 2, John Tavares and Nyes, William Nylander had his game. But it just ends up being the same thing. So what good is that? And how could you possibly think that what they've kind of, this would be acceptable if they went to the Stanley Cup final last year and then they had this and it was like
Vegas. Vegas just did it.
Like
Same
Vegas.
thing.
Vegas can say, you know what, fatigue, great team, Ottinger, whatever. We'll get back at them next year. If the Leafs went to the Stanley Cup final last year and this happened, you could say Matthews wasn't 100%, had to deal with the Nylander thing. But they just can't say that. They can't go back to that well because there's nothing to draw on in the past.
There's no goodwill.
Nothing. So ultimately, it's just another year of not getting it done. I'll tell you some of the comments from these guys this morning. Just crazy stuff.
Yeah, we got a fair amount of audio that we will play and we will dissect. We got all afternoon here. We got Ray coming up in an hour.
Yeah.
There likely will be change. We don't know what's coming. I think Sheldon Keefe's probably in trouble, but we said the same thing last year.
But there has to be change.
We said literally the same thing last year, and there was nothing. So,
but we didn't see the Dubas thing,
right? Which
was change, which was a crazy. Remember the year ago or whatever that was. That was a crazy transaction.
But that was Dubas getting out. That's become abundantly clear now. That was not Shanahan being proactive and saying, Dubas, you got to go. That was Dubas saying, I'm out. And I thought of him today because we interviewed him when he got the job and when he went all in on the core 4. Remember, we asked him, will you put your career on the line for this philosophy? He said, absolutely. And he's in Pittsburgh now with a better job making more money. So he didn't put anything on the line. And that's the nature of pro sports. You can say whatever you want in the offseason. If you don't show up during the regular season or the postseason, you just cycle back around and around. I actually think if change is coming and it's mandatory, this should be a positive day. This is a celebration of life. This is a celebration of an era finally coming to an end. It's a window that's closed that never really opened. They won one playoff round, but it's over. It's over. There's no more optimism left. You have a fan base here that is a combination of apathetic and agonized. There's either apathy or agony or anger or pessimism or negativity. And what's disappointing is when Shanahan arrived and then Babcock arrived and then Matthews and Marner and Nylander and Tavares, these were all incredibly optimistic moments. Sure. Incredibly optimistic moments.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Just nothing came out of it.
With every playoff loss, more and more fans faded into the abyss of it can't happen and it won't happen. And I think what happened on Saturday night, the last Leaf fan, the last one that thought this can work, they jumped ship. It's over. No one believes they can.
Yeah.
They can't do it with a core four, throw in Riley as a core five, Keefe, Treliving, Shanahan. Treliving's different. He's been here for a year. Shanahan, Keefe, the four guys up front, Morgan, Riley, that can't work. It's not going to work.
Yeah, and
everyone can conclude that. No, there's no more arguments. There's no more debates.
Dude, what are you talking about? You could have made that statement 4 years ago.
I agree with you, but not everyone did.
No.
Now everyone believes it's over.
Yes.
So now you better figure out how you shift here because that window is closed. Open up a new one.
Well,
doesn't mean scorched earth. Doesn't mean blow it up, rebuild, anything like that. But you need a new era, and it has to start today.
And as far as the players go, it's not hard for us to figure out to call somebody to see what they're like. They're all good guys.
Exactly.
They are. They're nice guys. They do charity work. They keep their nose clean. They don't get in trouble. And they're great hockey players. There's no disputing that.
Absolutely.
And you can, by the way, you can call for whoever's head you want. The players on the ice have to change.
Yes.
Okay?
I agree.
The players on the ice have to change. They're all fantastic players. But them together as a group to go at this thing, no way in hell it can never happen again. And by the way, that should have been said 3 years ago. Everyone should have known that 3 years ago.
There.
But there was belief, and this is where, you said Saturday night's the nail. But there was belief going, okay, they're this close. Their media today is like, we can't say that. We can't say you're just this close.
They tried to.
But
they try, like
they
Tavares
can't win one
said,
round,
we're so
Jamie.
close.
They're close to what? To watch this unfold again. And I was talking to people today, just running around doing stuff. The topic came up, like to do this, to go the distance. Like we're talking 4 rounds. That first round seemed like a month with all that went into it.
Yeah, it was
the injuries, the soap opera, the sickness, the migraines. It's like to think of that group of players to do that 4 times. No way in hell. And I don't know, other than a couple, there would be massive player. I don't know how you can do it in this day and age with contracts and no movement clauses. And it's difficult to move money, but there's just no way in hell. And I'm tired of people, like in the past, I've said, man, like Mitch Marner's a fantastic player. And I've always liked a guy like Konechny, who's just a good player. He's got some stones. He's really good. Yeah. And I'm like, if you threw a guy in there, and by the way, the money's half, it's half the price for the player. And everybody always says, I think we were sitting in here with Jonas one day, and he's like, Marner's a better player than David Pastrnak. I'm like, do you remember that? But everyone says, oh, you can't bring in Konechny. Marner's 10 times the player. Marner's 10 times the player of Konechny. Mitch Marner is an unbelievable player. He was a non-factor in that playoff series. He didn't do anything.
Nothing.
He did not contribute. So it's like, what good is saying you're a great player and you can get the 100 points again in the playoffs? There's just nothing to show for it. The idea behind it was these guys were going to be better than everyone else and lead the charge and be difference makers the other team couldn't deal with. Instead, they can't score a power play goal. Their power play was 1 for 23. And these guys are making $11 million, and they're all on the power play. That's insane to think that could happen. That's where they're supposed to do it. So to think of anyone that thinks they should go back with it, it's just got to be something different. You got to try something different.
I think it has to. It has to. But Brad Treliving last year had to jump on a moving train. Literally.
There's no denying that.
There was probably a lot of decisions that were made already while he was jumping on the train. Hey, we got to, we're going to get Austin done. We're getting Willie done. You got to deal with this stuff. Because Kyle Dubas, as I pointed out earlier, I think we all thought he was signing an extension. And all of a sudden he's gone and they shift. But this isn't Brad Treliving, he added some players, his quote unquote added some snot to the team, all of that type of stuff. But this is his biggest offseason. This is where if Keith Pelly decides that he's not going to flush everybody. Now that's a giant if, because I think there is change coming. But if Brad Treliving gets the opportunity with new management, whatever, whoever's involved, we'll see what he has to do. But there's so many question marks. I still have one going back to Saturday night. What the hell happened to Joseph Wall?
Well, that's a great question.
Because we're talking about Samsonov. My heart hurt for him.
I couldn't believe.
And he was really good in a tough situation.
Yeah.
Yes, the game-winning goal. It's a hesitant play. If I would think it as a goalie, cross dump. If you reach out and Pasternak goes around you, it's an ugly play too, right? Like either way, it was an ugly play. But I didn't like it. But it's at the end of the day, should have been Joseph Wall in net.
Yeah,
like,
I guess he got hurt on that
dive play.
1 second, which is so Leafy, and I feel for that kid.
I do.
But we say all the time, the best ability, the most important ability in pro sports is availability, and until he changes and stays healthy, he's an injury-prone player early in his career.
Right.
I love the way the kid plays. What he did in Game 5 and 6 was incredible.
Yeah.
It was shocking that he wasn't available Game 7.
I touched on the goaltending where the trend was 2 good games and then either really poor play where you got to pull the goaltender out of the net or an injury. And both proved right in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Samsonov had to go in, and it's like his good play turned into poor play, and then it's out of the net. And then you've got Joseph Wall, his good play turned into an injury. I don't know how you could trust either one of them. As talented as Wall is, and I know he's only young, how many more times does he have to get injured before you say, we got a problem here? And you're talking about a team that's trying to do something next year with a goalie you don't know if he can stay healthy. The goaltending injury nonsense has been going on for too long. It started with Freddie, it went to Jack, and then you got Matt Murray, and now these two guys.
Samsonov got hurt in the playoffs.
No kidding.
And he got hurt this year.
It's crazy. That's just a whole different. That's just like a separate compartment of what all of
we
that
were
is.
heading down a path. I apologize for taking it down.
Well,
but I just had this question.
It's just a part of it. It's a part of it.
It is a part of the overarching disappointment of the whole thing. And, when the dust settles, we'll see what happens. I think Brendan Shanahan, that's where you have to start if you're Keith Pelly. Like, he has to make a determination on what happens with Shanahan.
Right.
Because that's your president. He is the guy. Any major decision that happens with this team ends on his desk.
Right.
It always has. It always will. I know he's not visible. He doesn't speak. You never see him. He runs the show. That doesn't mean he's nitpicking what's happening with the Marlies. Hey, Bobby McMahon wants an extra. That's not his issue.
No.
But hiring Mike Babcock, that's him.
Yeah.
Hiring Tree Living, that's him. Keeping Keefe, that's him. Giving Marner what he wanted, that's him.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen in the future, if Shanahan's here, will be on Shanahan. You referenced Tree Living.
Yeah.
Tree Living's going to play a big role in it. He can't do anything unless Shanahan signs off.
They have to sign
Shanahan signs off on everything. That's the way it should be. He's the guy at the top.
Yeah.
So Keith Pelly comes into focus here. Pelly's the new president and CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. He's walking in to, I won't say a disaster, but the Raptors are not in a good place. Toronto FC has not been in a good place for a while. They have Herdman now. They're hoping that's going to move in the right direction.
Don't kid yourself. It is a disaster.
It is. It still is. They're a mess. They're not.
Oh, no, all of it is.
But it all is. And the Leafs are too. And I said on SportsCenter on Saturday, a decade ago, Lewicki showed up. If Lewicki showed up today, he'd blow everything out.
Right.
Let's call it what it is. If Lewicki showed up today, Shanahan, Ujiri, they'd all be gone.
Right.
And it would be thank you for everything you've done, because there's been a lot of positive.
A ton.
Sure.
It's not a personal thing. Brendan Shanahan, when he arrived, he was ruthless. He got rid of a lot of people, and he changed a lot of things about the organization, but a lot of them were really positive.
Yep.
He reignited the history of this team, which was mandatory.
Yep.
Bringing Keon in, Legends Row, retiring the numbers, the 100th anniversary. I thought that popped. They did a remarkable job. He was at the forefront of that. The All-Star game this year. They got Matthews. They got Marner. They got Babcock. Like, he did he was A+, A+, A+ across the board.
Right.
But in sports, it's not always that deep. If you've been here a decade and you've won one round, it's tough to explain.
Right.
It's tough to explain. And you can't say we're in the results business, never have the results, but expect to keep doing the business. Right. Like, at some point, things, I think, might have to change. And I think what happened with Shanahan, and it permeated through the rest of the whole organization, was they did their heavy lifting early. And it was a lot, and it was tough, and they did a remarkable job on it. And then they just said, this is going to be it. We are going to win with Matthews and Marner and Nylander and Tavares and Riley and Keefe, and I don't care what anyone says. this is what we're going to do. And it didn't work. It didn't work out that way.
Yeah, he had belief in the players, that they were talented players.
And those are his guys.
And those were his guys.
Yeah.
But they couldn't find a way to get it done, the players.
Right. And, it's so anyway, I don't know what's going to happen there.
Right.
But that's the first decision. And then beyond that, you're going to make a call on the coach, and then you're going to get to the players.
Yeah.
And the guy today is Mitch Marner that everyone's buzzing about. And Marner, he had a couple of comments today. We'll play them. Why don't we start with, he was asked about the idea of being a Leaf and the idea of remaining a Leaf for an extended period of time. Here's what Mitch Marner had to say.
I mean, that'd be a goal. I've expressed my love for this place, this city. Obviously, I've grown up here, so we'll start thinking about that now and trying to figure something out.
What does it mean to be a Maple Leaf?
It means the world. Obviously, we're looked upon as kind of gods here, to be honest, and something that you really appreciate, and the love that you get here from this fan base and this attention is kind of none like any other. So you saw it with the Raps a couple years ago, the love that they still have for a lot of those players that they had to trade off this year, and that's kind of the love you want.
So listen, I don't think he's ever been comfortable with the media. We've had so many chats about Mitch and his comments, and people are jumping on the treated like gods. He's right, though. They are treated like gods, even if they don't win, which is a remarkable situation.
Just situational awareness.
It's not the best thing to say.
That is the truth, but to toss that one out there after another first-round exit is so tone-deaf, it's not even funny.
I agree, but again, he's never comfortable with the media. He never has been. I don't hold that against him. I hold his play against them. Like that's what we talk about more often than not, is how are you going to play? Play well, we pump your tires. Play poorly, we're going to criticize that. Yes, is it tone deaf? But it doesn't ultimately really matter what these guys are going to say today.
No, it's to me. I've said this that we get coached up. It's lip service, whatever said. Nobody's believing what they say today. But what you're doing is trying to get through today. Have an off season, let people breathe. Change is in the air, regardless. Morgan Riley was asked today, and I thought Morgan had a really good press conference, but he said, "Listen, there's change through osmosis. There's this team will never be the same because the players come and go."
Right.
The question I come back to with Mitch, at some point, doesn't he put his hand up and go like, "This is tough. Like it's been tough." Like, you're right. He grew up here.
What about this, Jamie?
Like, for him to go,
no, what about
tough
this?
on me and my family and everything.
That's his own personal.
I'm talking a personal thing, yes.
Well, what about this? If we were going to have a chance to win that series, I need to be way better. Instead of all this other nonsense these guys toss out, we're so close, we're this and that. Like, starting with Mitch, he could have said, if I was way better, we would have had a better chance to win the series. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like the honesty. And John Tavares, who's a sweetheart of a guy, like, just to say that we're close and we're this close, they're not close to squat. To do that 4 rounds, they're not close to squat by doing that. And I get it. It's difficult to be truthful and look yourself in the eye and talk like we do and spit out the truth because we don't care and it's our job. It's difficult when you're talking about yourself to bring the heat with the truth. But just come with it. Like that, to say, that's all I would have said. And it's difficult for me because I'm 15 years removed from the game, and I think maybe I would say something, but maybe I wouldn't if I did. But like just to say that we're gods around here, as opposed to saying I needed to be way better, we might have had a better chance to win the series. That's at least honest.
Yeah, and that's factual too. I mean, Marner in particular, he's not the reason they lost.
No, but he was a non-factor at $11 million.
He had 3 points, 1 block shot, 6 hits, and he's the only guy on the team that's on first power play, first penalty kill.
Right.
That's him. And the fact is, it just wasn't good.
Special teams wasn't good.
Special teams got destroyed, and he's the face of both, really.
Right.
And you're right. Instead of, and I've had this gripe for quite some time. They never talk about the Stanley Cup. They never talk about how sick they are to lose like this. It's always kind of, obviously it sucks, and we're tight knit,
and we love each other,
and we love each other, and we got what it takes. They're always defensive,
right?
And I'm surprised by that because they've been given everything they've ever asked for. Like Matthews and Nylander are the most secure guys in the organization. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
I didn't hear either guy come out and say, I'm sick of this and I don't care who it is. I want to win and I want to win
Remember
here.
Nathan
McKinnon did 4 years ago. What did he do the next year?
Yeah.
He won the Stanley Cup and he's still playing right now. And McDavid said that in the past and other players have said that in the past. And here it's just, we love each other and obviously we wish.
And we love this group and we're going to go back at it. It's almost like just completely not acknowledging what's going on.
Well, I feel like they are propped up to protect each other. And
Right.
Marner was the guy. Now, again, what Marner's going to say today, he doesn't know what kind of questions are coming his way.
Right.
He didn't speak after the game on Saturday, and neither did Morgan Riley. Like,
Right.
that's my understanding is they didn't speak. That, to me, is ridiculous. Not because they were on the ice against the Pasternak goal. They should have because they were on the ice.
Right.
But Morgan Riley's got an A on his jersey. He's the longest-standing Maple Leaf. He's been here for 11 years.
Yeah.
You just lost. Go out and speak. Mitch Marner's got an A on his jersey. He's been here for 8. Go out and speak and explain what happened. Talk about it. But I don't even know if I blame the players. I don't think I do because the players are going to put their hands up and say, let me go out.
Right.
The Leafs let them not go out. And that's the way it goes. And then I have 2 clips for you here because this clearly was a theme.
Right.
Let's protect Mitch today because Mitch is getting buried. And which one are we going to start with, Matthews or Nylander? Okay, William Nylander asked about the heat on Marner. Here's what he said.
An incredible human being, friend. I mean, love the guy. And look, there's always somebody getting heat here regardless of what it is. So, I mean, however it's going. So that's just the way it is. And, I mean, we love him. And, I mean, there's always going to be something that you guys have to say or whatever. But, I mean, that's a fact of what it is playing here. I mean, like I said, everybody loves him and want the best for him.
All right, so media is after somebody, scapegoat.
They lost in the first round again. What the hell is he expecting?
Okay, that's Willie. Now here's Austin. Similar question.
Cut and paste.
Well, I mean, I think in my time here, you've learned, or I've learned that, there's always a scapegoat. There's always a narrative. There's always something. And, we love Mitchie. He's a great teammate. He's a great friend and a competitor. And so, in the end, we're also human beings. So taking, we take on a lot as players, and rightfully so. So, when you see guys kind of go through stuff like that, it's hard on everybody, and you just try to support him and be there for him.
So that would suggest to me it was, you're going to get asked about Mitch and spin it, scapegoat.
Right.
Someone's going to be a
I
whipping.
don't understand. There's a narrative. They write the narrative.
Well, that's what gets lost in this. Matthews they're human beings. It's tough. I understand that. That's part of being a professional athlete. That's part of the reason you make $11 million.
Right.
And you get the endorsement
Treated
deals
like
and you get treated like gods.
Right.
Is what comes with it. Is when you don't pull your weight, people are going to say, "Hey, you're not pulling your weight." But and I get he's their friend and they love the guy. I don't dispute any of that. But what do you expect people to say? Like, what are people supposed to say about the situation on the whole team?
Great. Like,
yeah, I just that to me is also
tone deaf.
It's just it's tone deaf and it's just it's prepared. It's teleprompter reading.
Well, both of them it's the exact same statement.
Yes, literally the same.
So that's the narrative. But like, I don't know. I was sitting there thinking, like, if that was my teammate, I would probably do the same thing.
I get it. That's their guy, and they love the guy,
and he's under the gun.
Totally.
But ultimately, we're in here today. If Mitch didn't have a great series but scores the OT winner, all is forgotten.
Jamie, the point is you can simplify it and say, we love Mitch Marner, we support him. What happens from here, we don't know, but we love the guy and we support him. Instead of saying the narrative stuff and scapegoat stuff, that's crazy.
Here's the way out is take the heat yourselves. Take it off him. If he's your guy, Austin can say, listen, I wasn't good enough when I played. I'm on this team. I don't know why you're all yelling at Mitch. Yell at me. I'm the highest paid. I'm the best player on this team. And I've won one round. Throw it at me. And Willie should come out and say, I missed 3 games and that sucked and that hurt. I could have helped Mitch. And when I played, I thought I played well, but I didn't get the job done either. Instead of media sucks. Toronto, it's so tough. Scapegoat.
Narratives.
Take it on yourself. Like Austin could have fallen on the sword and said, listen, I didn't get the job done.
That's never happened, and I would never expect it to happen in the future.
Well, listen.
That's just the deal. You lose, and it's just, people are writing stupid stuff about us, and I don't know why. The reason is because you never win.
Because you lost again. Yeah, exactly.
You can't play the victim role.
And
you're just talking about the flat, like if we're just talking about results, they lost a really tight game, but they lost. That's
right.
it.
Pat Maroon said it before the series started. The playoffs are about who does it and who doesn't. That's the simple, and they didn't do it again. But that's why the narratives are out there.
So
that's stuff every year.
That's what needs to be focused on, is regardless of the process, and there was some built-in excuses, unfortunately. Nylander, Matthews not at 100%.
Yeah.
Joseph Woll all of a sudden not being. But the bottom line is you could probably give that a pass if this was year 2 or year 3.
If you didn't mail in game 1 and game 4.
Fair enough.
There's another one.
3 and 4.
3, they were okay. It was tied 2-2. Marchand scores top shelf. They weren't great, but they were okay. They were horrendous in game 4.
1 and 4.
And 1, they didn't show up. Right. So you're right. All those things can come in if, hey, listen, we lost 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. Yeah. What a battle. We were really struggling. You handed them 2 games. You said, here you go, game 1 and game 4. You can have it.
Right.
And your power play, you scored 1 goal on the power play. Your penalty kill was anemic.
When you dig into the whole,
that's
what's so shocking and surprising.
Yes,
special power play where you're watching other teams just, it's almost an automatic goal, or you just it's a difference maker. This was a difference maker in a negative way. And again, yes, Willie not being available, Austin not at 100%. That does hurt your power play. But this was like ridiculous. 4%, a 4% power play.
4% power play.
It's unheard of
is
with power play. People that are known for their power play abilities.
Didn't they have a 4-banger? They had a 4-minuter that they got 1 shot on goal.
Yeah, it wasn't even close.
And that was last Saturday.
Well, we're looking at something up on TSN4. Paul Peduti tweeted this out. It's pretty fascinating. It might be isolated to just this one single round, but if you compare your power play percentage with your penalty kill percentage, the Oilers were 45% on the power play, 100% on the PK. That adds up to 145. They won the round. The top 8 teams
that won their round,
they all won the round. So in other words, they all won their special teams battle. Edmonton won, Boston won, New York won, Colorado won, Vancouver, Carolina, Dallas, Florida. They all won the special teams battle, and they're in the second round. And the teams that didn't, they went home. And the Leafs weren't even. It's actually a miracle that the Leafs got to overtime in Game 7.
They beat LA. LA didn't score.
They beat LA. Crazy. And they got to overtime in Game 7. And again, they're a good team. Like it's not as if they're a disaster. They're not, like you said, like these are not unlikable.
No, they're
like
good guys.
They haven't been bad to the city or the brand or anything. It just
them together winning this doesn't work.
And this fan base deserves a ruthless approach at winning. They deserve what Bill Foley and Vegas have created, where you're not loyal to anybody, you're not loyal to anything. The only thing that matters is winning.
Yes.
And it's long overdue because Tim Lewicki had that, and then he left, and then it faded. But like Lewicki had it, and TFC won MLS Cup, the Raptors won a championship, the Leafs were moving, and then Lewicki left, and everyone got complacent, and everything was, hey, we're good in the regular season, let's take it and see what happens.
Right.
They got to get to a point where they are absolutely ruthless.
Yeah.
Because the fan base deserves it, right? Like fans are going to listen to this and be watching, and some will agree, some will disagree. I understand that. But it's a great fan base. It's a massive fan base. It's a fan base that has just had their hearts broken like so many times. Like, look at how many Game 7 losses. Like, what are they, 0-6 in Game 7 in the last 11 years? 4 of them at the Boston Garden in Game 7. 4 of them. 13, 18, 19, 24. That is so cruel. Like, that is so cruel.
Almost unbelievable.
It's almost unbelievable.
So you guys would get the pulse better, but every Leaf fan that I talked to is like, I knew they were going to lose.
Well, in retrospect.
Like, okay, well, where were you? Friday
but when Willie scored, saying,
that's
what's even
when
more
Willie
sickening?
Scored, I was like, I think they're going to win this.
He had a minute and 20 to believe that. And then the second Lindholm scored, you knew they were going to lose. Yeah. It's sickening, but
and
they
like
had a minute
that terrible goal goes in. It's like you just had to go. That's a terrible goal.
I agree with you. We'll come back and talk more on it all. Ray Ferraro coming up. Chris Johnston will join us. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Hey, Boston's in action tonight. Game 1. Boston versus Florida. That'll be a fun watch tonight.
FanDuel odds later.
I'll have my best bets on that game tonight. I'm looking forward to it. So we've got a lot to continue to break down here. Ray Ferraro's coming up in half an hour. Ray was ringside for the Pasternak 0-2 winner.
I will say there was one soundbite that was slightly unnecessary. Do you know which one it was?
No.
Tkachuk? Yeah, a guy who plays in Florida.
That's such. Well, let's play it. We got to play it. Do you have Tkachuk?
I love Chucky, and but it just was.
It was such an unnecessary dagger.
I was like, is he serious? I kind of chuckled.
Need more of it in the game. Not everybody's willing to do it.
I like it. Yeah, I kind of like it too.
I was like,
yeah, let's play it. Here's what Matthew Tkachuk had to say about Florida preparing for their second round opponent without knowing who they were actually going to play.
Without this coming out too badly, I mean, I think we all knew it was probably going to be Boston, the way that series was going, and I'm sure a lot of people expected at the beginning of the series. But playoffs, I guess you never know. But I think throughout the whole series, we were probably expecting they were going to come out and win it one way or the other.
That just is a horrible, horrible indictment on your team.
But what other...
He's right.
Yeah, what other evidence does he have to make a comment?
No, I know. Boston won. He's 100% correct.
Yeah, and for every Leaf fan that chirps Sens or teams that are in the basement not qualifying for the playoffs, you're getting 10, 14 days a year extra. That's all you're getting. So it's like it's just like we talk about the Ottawa Standard saying they have to change the players to get better results. The Leafs are the same thing. They play 14 more days. And they both have the same thing in their hand right now, which is nothing. You need to change to play longer than 14 days or 0. You need different players to make it happen.
That's what I'm saying. Simple. I mean, it's too bad. I think they're in a transition period. I do. And I said that leading up to the trade deadline. I took a lot of heat. I said, I'm not going all in. They're not good enough. And thank God they didn't.
No.
Imagine their first-round pick was in Calgary or Easton Cowan was in Anaheim or something
look at
stupid.
Vegas. I mean, Vegas lost. They got hurt or eventually.
But they won a cup last year.
You're right.
The Leafs are not, and Vegas is better than the Leafs. And going into next, they're a cup contending team. The Leafs are not. Right. And again, it's very difficult to accept. I understand it because they don't have the banner. They don't have the wins. They are in a transition period where, just like Pittsburgh went through, they went to the Cup in 2008, won it in 2009. They didn't get back there until 15 or 16. They were still competitive. Right. The Leafs will be competitive, but they had to reshuffle, right? They had to make some moves, and things came in and came out. The difference is the Leafs don't have the banners. But they're in a position right now where I feel like they need to take a step back, figure out what they're going to do with Marner, figure out what they're going to do with Tavares, what are you doing with the head coach, accumulate some cap space. They got to build up their farm system because it's not that good. And you got Matthews for 4 years, Willie for 8, Riley for 4 more, whatever it is. And then everything else is up for grabs, and you got to figure out how it's going to work.
The bottom line, we mentioned the quality of people these guys are, but there's just been too much focus on the 4 players. And it, like every Leaf fan, Leafs Nation, it's about the team and the team success. And if you take Marner's salary, I did the math earlier this year, and you go to Vegas. Jonathan Marchessault won the Conn Smythe Trophy last year, and he makes $5.5 million. Probably going to get a pay raise this summer.
Yeah.
But he's $5.5 million player that scored a bunch of goals in the playoffs. So it was him and Carrier, another guy, and I think it was Hag. That totals $11 million, 3 good players. So you need to get away from the one guy. They've already got a couple guys that make $11 million that contribute. Is it a lot? Yeah, it is. Matthews is going to make 13 next year. But this being about 4 guys, you got to turn those high salaries into 3 other good players. Into depth so the team can win, not about the 4 players.
I agree with you.
And how that's been going on that long, I don't know, but that's just the simple fact of it.
Yeah. Listen, they did a lot of heavy lifting. They got these guys.
They did, and they played good, and they had good regular seasons, but they don't win in the playoffs.
No, I know.
So that's it for it.
And they weren't willing to deviate from the plan because they were convinced this has to work. and it didn't in the end.
Well, you always say it. You punch your ticket and give yourself another shot. How many more shots?
But-
And please don't come at me with the Ovi and the Yzerman now, because we're talking about no runs. If they were conference final after conference final, went to a final, bunch of injuries first round, then they're not sniffing anything, man. They're playing 14 more days than the Sens and Columbus. That's it.
No, that's
That's all you're getting. You don't get anything
years
for
of that.
14 days extra.
Well,
Yeah.
but that's where I think it's very important is the next moves are critical, because this is Matthews' window. This is Mitch Marner. This is Nylander. They're in their prime. Like, this is their prime player.
What he's saying, though, and I agree, who cares about Austin Matthews getting his cup? The Leafs need to get their cup.
Correct.
If Matthews is a part of that, awesome.
He's got to be the.
He doesn't get to go ahead of the
who's a
line.
part of it. No
Exactly.
one
That's my
does.
point. I don't care who it is.
Right.
I love Austin Matthews. I love Willie. I love Mark. I love all these guys and their stories. Again, like the pillars of the organization. And what sucks is Brendan Shanahan, Sheldon Keefe, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, like the four of them are kind of being talked about a lot right now. They're all Toronto guys.
Right.
They're all from the greater Toronto area. And it sucks that we're at this point. Because when they all arrived, it was amazing.
Came home.
It was amazing. They came home and they started with so much optimism.
Yes, because there was a thing out there about nobody wanted to come and play in Toronto. They got the golden nugget in Matthews. They drafted Nylander and Marner. And a guy wanted to come home, a superstar in his prime, to play here. It seems like everything was turning up Leafs, but it resulted in nothing.
And that's what it gets back to. It doesn't really matter about the birth certificate. It doesn't matter who it is. Obviously, the story would be incredible if you can complete it with all these guys doing it. That would have been amazing.
Right.
It's not going to happen now. And Matthews and Nylander are here, and you're going to build around them.
Right.
But I think they got to get away from, because that was the mentality at the deadline. You got to do it because look at Matthews.
Yeah.
If you're not good enough, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Give Matthews the opportunity in 2 years to be good enough. Because I don't know how it's going to happen between now and the beginning of next season. I'm not sure if it's possible. They're going to have some cap space. There will be natural turnover. Marner, Tavares, they got to make a call on that. If they move on those two guys, that's $22 million. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I think it goes deeper than that. I think they got to get back. They got to find a way to draft and develop. Like you look at the Dallas Stars, all right? Robertson, Johnston, Hintz, Heiskanen, Harley, Lindell, Foxa, Stankoven, Ottinger, Dellandrea. They're all drafted by that team in the last like 7 or 8 years.
If you don't know in the salary capped era that draft and develop is a key
But
element.
what happened ever since the Matthews pick?
I have
You know
no
who played
idea.
the other night that made an impact that was drafted and developed? One guy in Nyes. Robertson and Liljegren have come in and out of the lineup.
Right.
They're not mainstay guys.
Interchangeable parts.
One guy played the other night that was drafted, developed, that you said that guy showed up. Matthew Nyes.
And in Game 6, it was the goalie.
And in Game 6, I guess Joseph Wall, you're right.
Right.
But in Game 7, he wasn't available.
Not available.
But after Matthews, Marner, and Nylander showed up, and Riley was drafted and developed, you go into Saturday night with Wall not playing. You have Nyes, Robertson, Liljegren. Everyone else traded for, signed,
Yeah.
free agents. I mean, Dallas is an extreme example because that's ridiculous how good they've done.
Yeah.
Like, it's absurd what they've picked up through the draft. They clearly are doing something. They're on a cheat code right now.
Right.
Like, that's just a remarkable list of players you've drafted and developed.
Yeah.
But they got to get the system going. Like, you got to bring kids up, and they got to factor in. And
Right.
Cowan's got to hit.
Yeah.
Mitten's got to hit. They got to find a defenseman that you can
I
actually
know, but why
play.
are you saying this now? This is a known thing. It's been like that forever. For you to bring it to the...
But why? I don't work for the team. Why aren't they doing this?
No, I know, but you could have said this last year.
I've said it for years that they have not drafted and developed a goalie since Felix Potvin, maybe James Reimer, maybe Wall's going to be that. And outside of Riley, you got to go back to Caberlet, and then beyond that, I don't know who else. In terms of like drafting, but he wasn't drafted and developed by the Leafs.
Faber was the Islander.
Yeah, like we're like drafted, developed, top 4 mainstay stud for the last 25 years. It's Riley and it's Caberlet. That's it.
Well, there was players on the board that, good young, but it's just skill was drafted for the whole shebang.
Listen,
And they traded a lot of picks away. And
They
listen,
did.
every team makes mistakes.
Yes,
Every team makes mistakes.
Yeah.
It gets exacerbated when you're a team that falls short. And Mason Marchman's still playing, and Verhaeghe's still playing, and Hyman's still playing, and Seth Jarvis, who they picked because you had to unload Patrick Marleau because you signed him because you thought, hey, we got a 3-year window here.
No.
We're going to win a cup with this guy.
And it should have been 2 max, but it just had to be
And it
3.
had to be 6.5. And Zaitsev, like you can go down the list, and every team has them. Every team. But when you're 8 years in and you've won 1 round, you look back and they're so much louder.
It's highlighted. It's like popping off the page.
Like
all that
they
stuff.
had that guy,
Right. But
they
then-
had that guy.
So, how do you get to? You're not going to get to blank canvas.
No.
But there's big decisions to be made to free up or change the course of what this team looks like. But the question comes back to who's doing it, because Keith Pelly's just arrived. How long has Keith Pelly been on the job?
Just over a month. I think it was the beginning of April.
We had him on a month ago. So is he got enough information from what he sees and hears? I mean, he's going to get direction
And ownership's
from the board and all of
Yeah.
that. Does he have enough information to go, okay, this is what's going to happen. This would be my new vision for MLSE. Or is he going to get direction from the board? Or is he going to go, hey, I'm going to take the next few months and let things, interview everybody? And like, for me, I can't wait to see what the next move is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought it was interesting. You've got the players and the coach today, and then 3 days later,
Just management.
So
Yeah, something.
like something's going to, for me, give in those next couple days. Maybe not. Maybe it is, hey, we're going to do a forensic audit. We're going to sit down and talk with everybody internal. But that space for me was a bit weird. Like just that seemed like a bit of an outlier.
I think you're probably right. And listen, Sheldon Keefe spoke on it today. He said he can't control what's going to happen. And he knows NHL coaching in this day and age, it's a rapid cycle.
Why would
Like it-
I hope that the Dwayne Casey situation doesn't happen, where they wheeled him out for media, and I think the next day they fired him.
Yeah.
Like, why let the coach speak for the team if you have it in your head that you're going to make a move on the coach?
That's
just disrespectful.
I know. It's a recent development in pro sports. Like it happens everywhere where the guy comes out and speaks and you're like, that guy knows he's not coming back.
But what would you rather, like, I think that's why you separate it, because
Jamie, the bottom line is the coach that's going to get fired, and they know he's going to get fired, there's no way in hell he should be addressing the media, talking about the team moving forward. It's not right. Just do it.
So you say to him, you're not doing media tomorrow?
No, you just say, you know what? The players are speaking Monday, everyone else Thursday. That's a very simple way to do it.
Yep.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard to figure out. And I'm not in media relations, nor did I ever take the course.
All right.
Sure sound like it.
Yeah, you're crushing
smokes,
that.
yeah.
All right, Ray Ferraro and 20. We'll play Sheldon Keefe's comments from post-game Saturday when he was asked about what went wrong. There's a lot of coaching news out there. It sounds like Travis Green could be on his way to Ottawa as the new head coach in Ottawa. Rick Bowness retiring today after being nominated for the Jack Adams. It's kind of like Dwayne Casey. Casey won the Coach of the Year and got fired before he even won it. So more on that still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
Al's brother off the top rope with a text message to me, which he often does. He said, "Oh, dog, one thing with the Ovi and Yzerman thing, there was major coaching changes made for that to happen as well. Scotty Bowman, Trotz brought in, put him over the top. Never happened."
Al's brother of the Detroit Free Press.
Yeah.
I forgot he covered the Yzerman era. Thank you, Al's brother.
Detroit Free Press.
That's great. Yeah, he's right, though. I mean, ultimately, they've had Babcock and they've had Keefe.
Yeah.
Like Sheldon's been here a long time, and a long time within the organization, right? With the Marlies, he won a Calder Cup there. He's been with the team for 5 years. That's a long, long time in NHL coaching.
Look, we talked about it off the top, Hayes. These are a bunch of good people that are assembled together to try to win. And I'm frustrated because I thought when this was assembled that we cover the team for a living. Like, that's our job, to talk about a lot of Leaf stuff on this show. I thought we'd be doing some different things, like a lot of playoff series and deep runs. And I just find frustration on a selfish level that this show would be so much fun to carry that into June. but it just hasn't happened. And
Yeah.
it sucks. So there's some built-up frustration just for us, for what we do. I thought it would be a lot different, and it hasn't been.
I agree.
Nice to go to Florida or go to one of these places where, like,
Well,
hey,
who
we're
are you
gonna
kidding, Noodles? We wouldn't be going anywhere. We'd be doing
Never
it from
know.
here.
I don't need to go
Never
anywhere,
know.
but I agree. I mean, listen, we can't control how they're going to play, what's going to happen.
right.
And this is the nature of the way it works. You know, they play the games and you react to them and you talk about them. And if
And
they
it-
win, you pump their tires. If they lose, you criticize why they lost.
And you mentioned the most important thing. You can say what you want or what you think about Leafs Nation, but they're passionate enough fans. They're not crazy. I'm telling you, they're not crazy. They just deserve better, man. They haven't seen it. Like, we talked about curses ending, the New York Rangers, the Boston Red Sox,
Yeah, the Cubs.
the Cubs.
Yeah.
It's like they deserve their kind of moment, man. Like, it's just, you drive around town, you see their hats and all this stuff. Like, they just deserve better.
Oh,
It's a dark place right now because
yeah,
I'll
it's
tell
just
you what,
sad, man.
there wasn't much flags flown up in my neighborhood, which usually there is, and they're all gone now.
Yeah.
The neighbor right in front of me, we do not talk a lot at all.
Yeah.
And he had a little Leaf flag in his thing. And I said, "Why'd you take it down?" And he goes, "I just take it down after they lose."
Yeah, it's depressing.
It is, man.
It is. I mean, listen, the nature of what we do, it's fun talking about the Leafs in the playoffs. And, you know, again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Like, I've been doing this show. I've been doing radio, TV, media, whatever for a long time. I've reset one series and it lasted 5 games. That's it. Like, they beat Tampa and it was awesome. And I thought that would be, I really thought.
I'm sure all three of us thought it was going to be different.
That's going to change things.
But it doesn't change our life. It doesn't affect our
No,
life
we
because
keep
I
the-
lay my head on the pillow and I sleep well. But
Shows
it's
the
just,
show.
the
We keep
show's the
rolling,
show.
man. But here's, and that's why the next, 12 to 18 months is imperative they get this right.
Yeah.
Because they're not blowing it up. No one's suggesting be awful and horrendous and tank. That's not going to happen.
Right.
But you got some tough decisions, and you've got to get them right.
Yeah.
Ray Ferraro coming up in the next hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.